Evening, everybody. Welcome to season 6, round 8 of SKR. Obviously tonight we have a sprint race, and how things work here at SKR when we have a sprint race is we don't have a qualifying session. We simply reverse the current championship order, and that is your starting grid for the sprint race. Then of course the sprint race goes on to form the order for the feature race. So we do have a 3-minute break, I believe, at the start of proceedings to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to get a setup on their car. Sometimes you rush through things and you forget to put that setup on, and then you're stuck with that default setup throughout the night. Obviously the sprint race will be a start to finish event. No pit stop predicted. The lights are glitching out. Did you see that? There we go. We're underway. Madwell from Smurf. Aston Martin from Williams. Ooh, and the Williams backs out of that, and we've got a bit of a mess here into turn 1. We've got a Mercedes going sideways. There's too many cars to mention. A Mercedes, an Alpine. Seems like an AlphaTauri coming from the rear. There was a Red Bull involved. So, absolute madness at the front of the field. Unfortunately, my tongue just not quite quick enough to keep up with all of that. Absolute disaster into turn 1. It's how easily it can happen. It's called the domino effect. And on lap 1 of a 10-lap sprint race, we see a virtual safety car, and as I say that, we see the end of that virtual safety car. Madwell, he's got a brilliant lead. 4.1 seconds. Then we have Revolution and Wasp, P2, P3. Good evening to Death Queen, again in the comment section. Thanks for your continued support. Great to see the same names back every night. Madwell leads the way, Revolution P2, Wasp P3. But that lead by Madwell, I think that could be a race-defining lead. Is anybody going to be able to close that? Let's have a look at the tires. Thought for a second he might be on some superior compound. Maybe he was the only car on the grid with softs, but that screen proves me to be incorrect. Everybody on a set of mediums. Madwell just has an insane lead on the end of lap 2. Thanks for that very informative stat. Possible pit stop strategies, 0. Madwell leads, Revolution P2, Wasp P3. These top 3 have been pretty stable. Virus now looking to shake things up at the front. He's in P4, followed by Chums, Big T in P6. Followed by Dixie Killer P7, Top Gun P8, and Pantry Star P9. All of those cars I just mentioned are together in a, not quite a DRS train, but this is, if this was F1 2024 rules, we'd already be under DRS. Obviously DRS activating on lap 2 this year. Madwell leads the way, sets the fastest lap of the race. Revolution leads the rest of the pack, and there's got a bit of a terrain forming behind him now. Revolution leads from Wasp in P3. We've given up on giving any footage to the leader. He's 7 seconds out front. This is far more entertaining. We've got a Red Bull all over the back of a McLaren. Is that a Aston Martin in the background? I think that's an Aston Martin gone sideways in the background. That's Big T falling down the order. You can see his name there. And luckily that doesn't trigger any safety cars. We're on lap 3 of 10. We've just had the one virtual safety car at the start of the race. Madwell took great advantage of it, had a 4-second lead at the restart, and he's been able to increase that lead to 8.6 seconds. More than doubling that advantage since the restart. Now Virus. He does get past Wasp. Interrupts that top 3 that had been very stable up until this point in the race, and now he's going to set off in search of Revolution, but he's going to have to keep his eyes on his mirrors for the next couple of corners, because that Red Bull may want to come back at him. Fastest lap of the race, 29.7. That is an incredibly quick lap. I think the fastest lap around here is a 1:31.4, I believe. And it was a long time ago. I'm not going to say the date because I don't remember, but I know it was Pedro de la Rosa. Madwell leads. That gap continues. 10 seconds now. Continues to grow. Revolution has opened up a 1 second gap over Virus. That'll be crucial as it's just over the DRS barrier. Then Wasp. He's down in P4. Been able to maintain a good race so far. Just lost that one position. Spent the majority of the race so far in 3rd. Then we've got Pantry Star and Top Gun, the 2 Alpines, in a much better position than their real counterparts this year. Of course, yesterday the Alpine team starting from the final row on the grid at this very circuit. Mr. M P8, Hosh Cartoon P9, and then Big T making up the top 10. Remember, we started with 19 drivers. We've lost one of them. That was Divan. Activated a virtual safety car that was on lap 1. Since then, it seems to have been pretty easy sailing, especially for the man out front. There he is. Madwell leads the way, 11.5 seconds, and if that sort of pace is going to translate to the feature race, it's going to be a very lonely race for the Aston Martin driver. Revolution still P2, and he's defending hard. That Alfa Romeo wants to take the P2 away from him. Very close battle here for P2. Thought about it ever so briefly. Maybe he didn't think about it, just went to the inside just to show him the front wing, let him know he's there. Maybe give him a little bit of a fright. Force him into an error. Pantry Star coming through the field quite nicely. He's up into P4 now for Alpine. He'll be able to see Virus in front of him. And Virus is desperately trying to get past the McLaren. As for your leader, 13 seconds is the lead. And with halfway distance in this sprint race, seems like certain victory for the Aston Martin team, unless we have some extreme drama in the closing stages of the race. Speaking of drama, the Alfa Romeo looks to the inside and then just thinks better of it. It's going to have a better opportunity this time around anyway. He's going to open up DRS. Going to have to be as close as he can to the back of that McLaren. Obviously we don't know what sort of battery management is. Well, we do know what sort of battery management it is. I just don't want to give it away, but I suppose I can, because it's virtually the same. And I'll just say that. If you're watching, you can see what those energy levels are, but I'm not gonna say what they are. Give too much away to the drivers that are listening. Madwell out front, almost 15 seconds. Virus still trying to get past that McLaren. Obviously now getting frustrated, starting to get frustrated, just looking at the back of the same car for too long. And he's going to want to get past as he sees that Alpine getting closer and closer in his mirrors. And speaking of the move, there is the move. Gets through before the corner, up through the inside, makes it look easy, and Virus goes up into P2. Now Revolution, he's just lost that position to Virus, and he'll be looking in his mirrors and he'll be seeing an Alpine, and it's an Alpine that's on the move. Pantry Star 1.6 seconds down the road, and he's definitely looking for a podium in this sprint race. Remember, the sprint race finishing position is important. Not only do you get points on the night, this is how you're going to start the race. Remember, Parc Fermé is on for all of these cars. So if you don't like your setup in the sprint race, you're going to have to deal with it in the feature race. There's not much you can do now. Maybe a few brake adjustments, front wing adjustments, but not much more you can do than that. Gotzi has left the session late in the sprint race. But Madwell leads the way at the front. Virus, he is in P2. But I think it's Madwell has just gotten away so far up the road that by the time Virus was able to get into P2, there's not much he can do about it. There's 3 laps to go. 17.5 second gap. And now Revolution coming under pressure again. Seems like he's been under pressure for most of the race. Was under pressure from the Alfa Romeo for so long. And now he's coming under pressure from another team that starts with the letter A. Alpine all over the back of McLaren. Goes to the inside. And that Alpine power unit proving everybody wrong. And off he goes, Pantry Star. I believe he is your championship leader. He is now up into P3. Let's just get confirmation of that. Pantry Star is your championship leader. And he leads the championship by quite some way. 20 points to his nearest competitor. Constructors' Championship, on the other hand, almost seems decided. Constructors' Championship lead something like 60 points off the top of my head. And that is obviously Alpine. So this will be a good result for Aston Martin to come back into the Constructors' Championship. But Pantry Star Championship leader and Alpine Constructors leaders, they're right up there in P3, in P5. Remember, Pantry Star would have started towards the back of the field. That's how we do these sprint races. We reverse the championship order, and if he's in P1, that means he started right at the back of this field. Pantry Star making light work of the Alfa Romeo, moves up into P2, but when he sees that gap in front of him, he'll either have a little sigh or he'll have a little laugh to himself, but he'll know he'll have another go at it in the feature race. It's not decided yet. Virus looks up the inside but doesn't commit to it, and for the time being Pantry Star will continue out front. In other battles around the track, we've got Top Gun P5 defending P5 for all it's worth. He's got Wasp getting so close. They almost make contact. And then there's a Ferrari right behind them in P7. It's Dixie Killer. And soon he's going to be coming under pressure from the Alfa Romeo. So still lots of action in the closing stages of this race. Action for everyone except for this man here. 20 seconds out front. Almost a pit stop's worth of a gap in a sprint race. That is a remarkable performance. A remarkable drive. Pantry Star in P2. Still defending from Virus. Still needs to be wary. And with just 2 corners to go and only one of them that really counts, this battle here in the midfield is far from decided. We're going to have an Alfa Romeo stealing a position right at the end. Can he get the car stopped? Yes, he can. And Harsh Cartoon will steal that position right at the end. Goes up into P7. Very nicely done. It's going to be a busy last lap. And you know who's almost finished with their last lap? Maybe that's an exaggeration. Not almost finished. Well, he's halfway through Sector 2. Madwell leads the way, but the battle for second place is still not decided. Just 0.3 of a second cover those 2 cars. Welcome to Monique in the comment section. Welcome to Visor, as well as Death Queen earlier on. Top 3, Madwell, Pantry Star, Virus, but Madwell with, well, a mad advantage. Remember, this is just the sprint race. We get to do this all again in just a few moments, and it's going to be a much longer race. It's going to be a race that involves pit stops, involves tyre selection, and we might have a slightly different result. But as for the win is clear. Madwell over the line, takes the victory, takes the points for the sprint race. Pantry Star, he starts now on that back straight. 2 corners to go. Only one that counts. I don't know why these are 2 corners. But there we go. He's held on to second place. He's held off Virus. Virus has done well to hold on to that podium position. Ooh, and it seems like we missed that. He had penalties. He had penalties next to his name. So Virus does claim P2. Revolution's going to be quite happy to take that podium position back. Top Gun P4. And Dixie Killer making up the top 5 there. We now wait for some of the drivers at the rear. I'm going to assume a lot of these drivers were involved in that early incident. Seems like a Williams going very, very wide there in the background. It's Gotti, but doesn't have much longer to go. For the drivers at the front, their race has all been over for almost a minute, and their mind will have already gone on to the next race. If you got points in this race, great, but it's time to focus on the next. If you didn't get points, it's time to stop moping about it and get featured on the next. There are your official results. Madwell takes the victory. And what a dominant victory it was. Then Virus P2, Revolution P3, that's your podium. Then we've got Top Gun P4. He's followed by Dixie Killer, Harsh Cartoon, Big T, Mr. Rem, Pantry Star in P9, and Wasp making up the top 10. Then outside the top 10, but finishing the sprint race, we've got Chums P11. He's followed by Smurf, Ulrich, Damon, Andre, Skull, Disguise, and then making up the field, Gotzi in P18 and a DNF from Divan on lap 1. And there we go, folks, we're back. Almost no turnaround time. Now remember, there is going to be a mandatory 2-minute break. And obviously, for the same reasons as in the sprint race, this is just a 2-minute break for everybody to get their setups locked in, get their tyres locked in, their fuel levels, and all of that, so nobody can have a disadvantage of getting rushed into a race or just being caught napping a little. Obviously, we had 19 starters in that sprint race, 18 finishes, just the one retirement. It'll be interesting to see if we have 19 starters again, or if anybody else has been able to creep into the lobby, and maybe we have a full grid of 20. All will be revealed. As for the weather, we're in the desert. So what do you think? Obviously, what plays a big part on this track, rather than the rain isn't something you're going to see here in Bahrain very often, is the wind. But obviously on the game, the wind doesn't play that much of a role, if any. I think it would be something quite interesting to add to the game, having random wind speeds and random wind directions affect different tracks at different times. If you've just joined us and you're looking at the empty pit lane, that's because these guys are just doing their final touches, getting ready. Yeah, just mentioning that overheating is an issue in 2024. It seems to be the case. I mean, we saw Leclerc yesterday having to manage things. We saw Russell having to manage things. We saw Norris losing a power unit already in practice. I believe it was practice 3. McLaren lost the power unit. So heating is definitely an issue in 2024. And remember, this was a night race. Temperatures weren't crazy in Bahrain. Bahrain was actually a lot more chilly than usual last night, and they had those heating problems. So it'll be interesting later on in the season when they get to places like Qatar. Even if you look at the rear design of the Red Bull, some of the largest cooling vents you've ever seen. Race is due to begin at 6:35. We are now at 6:35, so we'll be switching into the race any moment now. But obviously there we go. I can stop talking rubbish. The race is back on. 5 red lights, and they're off, and we're underway. Aston Martin versus Alfa Romeo. And who's going to come out of turn 1 first? It's the winner of the sprint race. Madwell leads the way. We've got a McLaren versus an Alfa Romeo, almost 3 wide here into turn 2. And we have a caution. That's a Ferrari in the background. It's Chums becomes our first retirement. And I was going to say hopefully this stays as a caution, but I think, folks, we have our full safety car. Just wait for confirmation. There we go. Confirmation on your screens. Safety car is active on lap 1 of 29. Usually safety cars can be quite useful if you need to mix something up or if you've had a bad start to the race. But when they're this early, they're just annoying for everyone on track. That queue already together, as you can see. They're going to have to come around all the way again, pick up that safety car, and then probably do a minimum of another lap. So at least 2 laps behind this safety car. which means DRS will be delayed. Support for the AlphaTauris in the comment section. Currently P13, P16. They've got a lot of work to do if they want to get a good result out of this race. That is the team in P2 in the Constructors' Championship. But as mentioned before, almost 60 points the difference between Alpine and AlphaTauri. And then a further 30 points drop off to Alfa Romeo in third place. So those are the three teams battling it out for the constructors. And Alpine have both of their drivers outside of the points. Rather, AlphaTauri have both their drivers outside of the points, 13 and 16. Aston Martin safety car leads the way from Aston Martin Formula One car. And luckily for the rest of the field, that Aston Martin at the lead of the pack is keeping this Aston Martin, the number 3 Aston Martin, from running away. Just keeping things neutral for the time being. More support for Smurf, for Disguise, P14, P17, another 2 drivers that in this long race can still do a lot, but it's going to be a lot of work coming from the back of the field in this incredibly close field. And we know when DRS trains are involved, passing becomes that much more difficult. We're still behind safety car. We are in sector 3. If we're going to get any sort of confirmation, we're going to get it soon. Doesn't seem like we're going to get any confirmation unless it's extremely late. Safety car will stay out for another lap. Those drivers at the front of the field, they'll be raring to go. They'll want this safety car to come in, get out of the way so they can get on with it. In other leagues I commentate on, there is no break. So that break between qualifying and the race, or the sprint race and the race, it feels a lot quicker. In this format, you have that little break, you have that little moment to try and get your head into the race, get yourself ready, you soup yourself up, and then a few turns into the race, the safety car comes out. And sometimes what it can do is it can really break that concentration you built up at the start. I've seen almost as many incidents from a safety car restart as I have seen from a standing start. So very important towards the end of this safety car to really make sure you're focusing on everything around you, because it's going to be madness. 18 cars in the field at this restart, and I can guarantee you each and every single one of them, except the leader, will be trying to make up at least one position. So here at the front, when we get going again, which I believe will be shortly, there we go, safety car in this lap, confirmation. Madwell will lead from Revolution and Virus. That is your top 3. And as you can see, as soon as that confirmation came in, Madwell got off the throttle. He wants that safety car to drive down the road and into the pit lane, so that that safety car responsibility will now fall on his shoulders. And now he gets to dictate the pace, he gets to dictate the start, when to go, and remember, no overtaking until the start-finish line. Thought he had gone, but he hadn't. He's leaving this late. Leaving it really late. They're on the pit straight. Look at this. Cars almost going side by side. I hope there's no penalties at the restart. And off we go just before the start-finish line. Madwell gets us back underway. Clean restart for the Aston Martin. Revolution up into P2. Virus loses a position to Top Gun. Top Gun now into the top 3. Virus loses another position, this time to Big T. Second Aston Martin up into the top 4. And Virus had a promising start to the race. Now finds himself line astern with his teammate. Harsh Cartoon following close behind. He's followed by another Ferrari powered car. The Ferrari Dixie Killer in P7. Don't think Ferrari would be too happy with a situation like this, where they had Ferrari powered cars racing in front of them. Madwell leads the way at the front. That gap 1.3 seconds, so he's already broken DRS. Now Big T. Big T on the move. He gets past Revolution, makes easy work of it. And we have an Aston Martin 1-2. Revolution now is going to do everything he can to hold on to those two Aston Martins, but he's going to have a field of cars behind him, and they're going to be able to see those Aston Martins getting away into the distance, and they're going to be wanting to get past the Papaya car. Madwell sets the fastest lap of the race at 1:32.8, and I'm sure now Big T's pace will increase as well, because he's no longer in traffic. He's going to have a bit of clean air. Not that much clean air. He's actually incredibly close to his teammate. 8 tenths is a gap between the two Aston Martins. Obviously Madwell had no competition in the sprint race, but this time looks like he may be up for a challenge from his teammate. Speaking of his teammate, he's just gone purple, fastest sector 1 of anyone in the race, and now Madwell locking up, so the pressure is there. Whenever you've got someone in your mirrors in the DRS zone, you're going to feel the pressure. When it's your teammate, you're going to feel even more pressure. Revolution P3, he's losing touch with the Aston Martins, and now coming under heavy pressure from the Alpine. Top Gun wants to get by. He sees those Aston Martins getting away down the road, and he knows he can't afford to spend any more time behind the McLaren. Needs to get on with it, and in turn he's coming under pressure from Virus as well, so wants to get out of this situation. And there we go. I think he just has. He pulls up alongside the McLaren and gets well ahead before the corner. And Top Gun now into P3. And the Alpine starting to look like they're going to have a better night. Revolution starting to lose momentum and falling down the order somewhat. It's now down into P4 and could soon fall into the clutches of Virus. Since the start of the race, biggest winners at the start of the race, could actually say 4 drivers there. Big T, Ulrich and Divan picking up 5 positions apiece, and then Andre already up 4 positions since the start of the race. No big losers in positions. Maybe Wasp, he's lost 5 positions since the start of the race. And then obviously just Kotze has made that one pit stop At the front of the field, Madwell leads the way 1.9 seconds over his teammate, but look at the difference on tyres. There is a difference on tyres. These Aston Martins may be first and second, but they are definitely not on the same strategy. And I wonder if strategy is going to be the deciding factor between these two Aston Martins. They seem to be the class of the field so far this evening. Or is somebody that we're not speaking about quite yet going to emerge from this midfield and challenge those two green cars ahead? Back at the front, 1.9 seconds, so that gap grew to 1.9 seconds, but now Big T almost managing it now. Top Gun car just got a little out of shape there in the braking zone, and that's allowed Virus to come right back up onto his gearbox. 0.2 of a second is the gap, and that Alfa Romeo is going to get DRS, and it's going to be incredibly impressive if the Alpine is able to defend here. He has been able to defend, surely used a lot of his battery there. Obviously you only get that limited amount of battery, and if you're desperately trying to defend for one too many laps, that battery's going to run dry and you're going to be a sitting duck on all of these straights. And with a midfield as close as this, that's the worst scenario to be in. Two Aston Martins still in the same frame. The drivers can still see each other. 2.4 seconds is the gap. So far, Madwell does have the slight edge, but he does have the better tyre. Virus P3, Top Gun, and Virus swapping positions. Virus P3, Top Gun now P4. The Alpine briefly on the podium. And now Virus reclaiming that podium position that he had at the start of the race. Harsh Cartoon, the other Alfa Romeo, he's in P5. He's followed by the two Papaya cars. But for how much longer? We've got an Alpine going up the inside. Pantry Star trying to get past Mr. Rem. Didn't quite work. Backed out of it. Thought better of it. He'll get it done later. Or will he? When you do see those opportunities, you got to make the most of them. Two Aston Martins, class of the field out front. The rest of the field will be hoping for a safety car to close things up, so we don't have that sort of lead we had in the sprint race. We saw what Madwell's able to do over that sprint race, over a 20-second gap. And it doesn't look like it because it's the interval timing screen. But if we're looking at the difference between Madwell and the next non-Aston Martin, that gap already 7 seconds after 8 laps. And remember, a whole handful of those laps were under safety car. Top Gun came under pressure a lap ago from Virus. Lost out of position, went down to P4, and now he's coming under pressure from another Alfa Romeo. This time it's Harsh Cartoon coming on the back of the Alpine. It's still a very close midfield. We have two McLarens very close together and an Alpine. The last thing you want is when you're so close to your teammate, you're trying not to run into your teammate, but you're trying to defend a position all at the same time. And really, there's just not much you can do. You don't want to run into your teammate. You don't want to lose a position. And in that moment, it's probably the only moment you'll ever wish your teammate just went a little faster. Remember, those two McLarens are on different strategies. Mr. Rem, the McLaren ahead. Revolution, the car behind. Mr. Rem on the harder tyre. He's going to go deeper into this race. Revolution on the medium tyre. So you'll want to get past Mr. Rem. This is the stint in the race where he needs to be making up the most amount of time. He's on the best tyre he's probably going to see throughout the race. Unless he chooses to go on the soft at the end, but we'll see how many drivers choose to do that as the race goes on. You see, that's the problem. That's the problem with switching positions when the field is so close. You want to give your teammate the position. You see cars all around you. You think, not yet. Got to wait for the right moment. Sometimes the right moment takes too long. You'll end up holding up your teammate, and then eventually you give the position, and you'll end up losing a position to someone other than your teammate. And that's what's happened here to Mr. M. Tried to do a switch with Revolution, but in the meantime also lost the position to Pantry Star. So now the two McLarens are split by an Alpine, as are the Alfa Romeos, also split by an Alpine. And as for the team out front, both drivers doing a fantastic job, but at this point in the race, Madwell has the clear advantage. And now complications at the McLaren team. Don't want to sound too dramatic, but this is almost an RB situation that we saw last night. So difficult. Two cars on two different strategies, almost yo-yoing in pace. One is faster on certain parts of the track, the other is faster on other parts of the track, and you don't quite know what to do with yourself. And things would be a lot easier if you didn't have cars all around you. You're trying not to lose positions and play the team game. And as you can see, that is not an easy thing to do, because now Mr. M loses another position, this time to Dixie Killer. Dixie Killer will try come back at him, but not this time around. Top Gun, he is in P3. Obviously able to get himself back up into P3, lost that position to Virus momentarily. Now gets himself back up on the podium. Virus is followed by his teammate. Alfa Romeo is having a good evening. The Aston Martin's having a good evening. And crucially for the Alpine team, they have one car up there. Actually, they have two. Top six runners. Two Aston Martins. Two Alpines. Two Alfa Romeos. The Ferrari is the only Ferrari on track. Remember, Chums retired very early on. And then the Haas has no teammate with him tonight. So those are the two drivers missing teammates. Dixie Killer and Divan. The rest of the field still have a great opportunity of scoring double points. Teams that look like they could score double points tonight: Aston Martin, Alpine, Alfa Romeo, as well as McLaren, having both cars up in the top 10. The other two cars in the top 10 is one Ferrari and one Mercedes. Aston Martin's running away at the front, and this is the best battle we have. Next best battle we have at the front, it's Top Gun and Virus battling it out for P3. And while these two battle, they need to keep in mind they don't want to trip over each other. They don't want Harsh Cartoon to get involved in this battle. And the longer the battle goes on, the more likelihood that the second Alfa Romeo will come into this. Madwell leads, 9 seconds is the gap over his teammate. Big T P2, then he has a further 7-second gap to Top Gun in P3. And unfortunately for Top Gun, he doesn't have any sort of comfortable gap. Every time he looks in his mirrors, he's going to see red. And look at that. We've missed it. Ulrich, the Mercedes driver, retires from the race, and as a result, we have a full safety car. Obviously, there'll be mixed emotions about the safety car as far as the drivers on the track go. If you were Madwell and Big T and things were going exactly according to plan for the team, this will really ruin your plans. Cancels out your gap. Makes you think, do you go in for tyres? Don't you go in for tyres? Forces that strategy game out of you when everything was going according to plan. So I think that'll be a bit annoying for the two Aston Martins. But I think everybody behind the Aston Martins that's hoping to get a victory tonight will be very grateful for this safety car that comes just before halfway distance. Got quite a few people watching, but we got 0 likes on the video, so we're under safety car. You've got time. Go hit the like button, and of course, if you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button, and you can hit the bell notification so that you get to watch all of our races. Every time we go live, you will get a notification. And as a little bit of side news, we may have a new league joining this channel, but more news on that later on in the week. And that will bring 3 of South Africa's most competitive F1 leagues together on one channel. Unfortunately for the viewers back home, you're going to have to listen to my voice for all of them. See, while we're under safety car, get to talk a little about next season and changes we might want to make in the comms box. I'm thinking of introducing a few things. Maybe having a podium interview after the race. And maybe getting reserve drivers who didn't get a seat that night to guest commentate with me here in the comms box. Make a few changes, get a bit more interaction in the comms box. And obviously any of you that are in the comment section every second night watching our F1 streams, if you've ever wanted to make the step up from the comment section and come and do some guest commentary for me, you just let me know and we'll arrange it. Obviously, currently we're commentating on 2 leagues, 3 races, and while a lot of these drivers do overlap in leagues, race in more than one, none of these drivers race in all 3 of those races I commentate on. So we definitely do have opportunity to get some of these guys in the comms box when they're not racing. Love to get some of these faster guys in the comms box, get some of their analysis on what's happening in the race. They know so much more than me. I can tell you a lot about the race, but don't expect me to tell you about what's going on in that car. I'm not one of the fastest drivers on track. In fact, around this circuit, I'm something like 30th on my own friends list. So, it'd be great to get one of these fast guys in the comms box. Give us their predictions throughout the race of what guys are going to do on strategy, what guys are thinking. Those are just some ideas for the comms box next season. And obviously, if you have any ideas, let me know. And if there is a way to integrate these things, we will. Obviously, there are a few limitations with the software I use, but if you have any suggestions, let me know and we'll see what we can do. It's not something you see in F1 every day. We have a manufacturer 123, and for the third time this season I'm going to make this joke. Aston Martin out front. Usually it's an Aston Martin leads from an Aston Martin, but this time it's Aston Martin leading from two Aston Martins. Now at the restart, hopefully no mess for the two Aston Martins. And a good restart there for the two Aston Martins. The Alpine looking to get involved. Tries to go up the inside. The door gets slammed shut in his face. Top Gun now P3, Virus P4, and he's going to have Pantry Star all over the back of him. Remember, all of the drivers actually went into the pits during that safety car. Some of them would have gone into the pits just before the safety car, like disguise. But for everybody else, at least the drivers here in the front, the top four, Big T, Madwell, Top Gun, Virus, all on 2-lap old tyres. 3 of those drivers on the hard compound, with the exception of Madwell. Remember, Madwell started on the soft tyre. He won the sprint race, started from pole, started on that soft tyre, and now under safety car conditions, he's decided to go onto the medium. And either he's got another set of softs and he's going to do a quick push to the end, or he's looking to do some Sergio Perez type tyre management and take that car right to the end of the field. But before they can think that far ahead, they still have to worry about the Alpine, the Alfa Romeo, and the second Alpine. All of these drivers still very close together. Remember, all the advantages, all the gaps, all the work that these guys have done gets cancelled out every time we have a full safety car. Field gets pushed back close together. And hopefully soon we will be back under DRS conditions before these gaps have a chance to open up. Just having a look at your penalties. Mr. Rem P9, Disguise P17, they're both on 5 seconds apiece. Those are pit infringements. And then Divan and Wasp in P13 and 15, they have 3 seconds apiece. And that is obviously for track limits. We're riding with Revolution. It's currently in P6. But even from P6, he'll be able to see the leader. There he is. He whips to the left. Things still close enough to make magic happen. Just takes one mistake. And while for the time being it looks like Big T and Mad will have this under control for how much longer now? Big T gets a bit of a squirm on the exit. Madwell's going to have the superior traction. Almost looked like he backed out there a little bit. Didn't want to go side by side with his teammate. And now Big T leads the way from Madwell. Top Gun, best of the rest. He's in P3. He's defending for all he's worth. He'll be hoping DRS stays off for as long as possible. It's that Andre and Smurf trading positions. Andre now up into P10. Two Williams drivers now both outside the points, as are both Red Bulls. The only Haas on the night outside the points, and the only remaining Mercedes also outside the points. So a few teams losing out spectacularly, and a few other teams, they're going to do really well. Two Alpines in the top 5, two Aston Martins, well, two Aston Martins in the top 2. Luckily for us, we're in the virtual world, because if this was in the real world, the team manager would be having all sorts of heart palpitations. Big T and Madwell going very close together. But both of these drivers, they are talented, they have race etiquette, they're fast. And I don't expect to see them running into each other. A little bit of a jump there. And Madwell retakes the lead of the race. Now remember, he's going to have the superior tyre. He's the only driver out there in the top 8 that has a set of mediums. So he could very well now, oh, we've got a caution, we don't have confirmation of a safety car as of yet, but we do have a caution. It's for one of the AlphaTauris. One of the AlphaTauris just got his way up into the points, and the other one has now just retired. Seems like this will be cleared. I'm saying that tentatively, because we still have a yellow flag at turn 1. Still have a caution, but no safety car called. And the Aston Martin team will breathe a sigh of relief. It's the last thing they want, is to get pushed back into this field and then left with just a sprint race at the end, 4 or 5 laps, everyone on fresh tyres. It really mixed things up. But from a field that started with 19, we're down to 16, 3 retirements. See an interesting stat yesterday. Yesterday was the first time, not the second or the third, but the first and only time we have had 0 DNFs from a season opener. Got to remember, a season opener is when your car is supposed to be at its least reliable. It's when you're really pushing everything to the limit for the first time, and all 20 runners were able to finish. That's the reliability of modern F1. But back to this race, Virus P4 has not given up on a podium. May have given up on P1 and P2, because those two are getting up the road quite nicely. But he won't even be thinking of those Aston Martins just yet. He'll be thinking all about this Alpine. We've got a 3-second time penalty for Wasp. He's down in P14, and the 2 drivers behind him also have penalties. So he won't be crying too much, as if he was one of the drivers in the lead here. Remember, if you find yourself in a DRS train, let's say you were in the middle or at the lead of a DRS train, yet you were the only car with a penalty in that DRS train, you will effectively lose the length of that DRS train. 4, 5, even 6 positions. So important, if you want to be competitive, to keep that penalties column clear. Everyone in the top 8 is doing exactly that. Top Gun looking for a way past, looking to make it an Alpine 3 and 4, but he's going to have to dispatch Virus before he can do that. And Virus isn't letting this podium go easily, and he's definitely not going to let P4 go easily. But he doesn't want P4, he wants P3, he wants a podium. But he's got to keep his eye not only on the Alpine ahead of him, but also on the Alpine behind him. Divan sets the fastest lap of the race from P16. That's what happens in the latter stages of the race. When your fuel is getting much lighter, and then you go into the pits and put on a fresh set of softs. I think we may still see that fastest lap beaten by Revolution in the next lap or two. Aston Martin seem to have everything under control at the front. Pantry Star, not a confirmed third place. And I wonder if he'll see his teammate there, see his teammate in the mirrors, and I wonder if he'll just be thinking of holding on to third place, or if somewhere in the back of his mind he'll be thinking, I could backfire us up into my teammate. But surely not. Cars are so close together, he just couldn't take that risk. Could very well land up impeding himself and his teammates and letting the Alfa Romeo by. But that second Alpine, he'll want to attack. But he's just not finding any place to attack, because the car ahead of him is pulling every attacking move he can to get ahead of his teammate. Still so close at the front. Speaking of close, here's another battle. Harsh Cartoon, the other Alfa Romeo, coming under pressure from Andre, the only remaining AlphaTauri. Evening to Skull in the comment section as well. I don't know, should I stop calling them AlphaTauris? Can I start calling them RBs? Because I'm just confusing myself at this stage. Pantry Star now starting to break away a little bit, just has a little bit more space between him and the Alfa Romeo than he's had in a long time. Safety car. Safety car. I said this a few laps earlier, if we get a safety car in the late stages of this race, it's going to mix up everything. And it could be exactly what the Aston Martins did not want. This is interesting. Madwell has chosen to stay out. He's right there. He's just behind the safety car. Pantry Star has chosen to stay out. Harsh Cartoon has chosen to stay out. But Big T, Virus, Top Gun, Pixie Killer, Wasp, all making pit stops under the safety car. And when we get going again, we're only probably going to have 4 or 5 laps, and it's going to be quite the 4 or 5 laps. It is lap 23 of 29 if you've just joined us, and as you can see, we are under safety car conditions. Madwell leads the way. That is the winner from the sprint race earlier on this evening, and the pole sitter from earlier on this evening. He leads the way in this race. He's behind the safety car. Pantry Star will be in P2, but he's also on aging hards. And then Harsh Cartoon also on aging hards in P. So P2 and 3, aging hards. Wouldn't say aging, they still have a lot of life on them. Maybe Madwell on aging mediums. But then they have this risk. Big T, Virus, Andre, Dixie Killer, Top Gun, Mr. M, Wasp, Damo, Smurf, Gotti, Revolution, Divan, all of those cars, every single car besides the top 3 is on a brand new set of softs. So I think with the superior grip at the end, this field could look very different come the checkered flag. Well, the safety car at the end is always exciting. You think the race is set, game and match, and then all of a sudden safety car comes out, and that timing screen means nothing. Sure, the Ferraris wouldn't have minded a safety car yesterday to slow down Max Verstappen. Divan is in the pits, and Revolution is trailing the field here. He's going to be able to catch up to the queue. Hopefully safety car does do one more lap so that Haas can catch up to the back of the queue. Really sinking feeling when you make your pit stop a little too late and the safety car queue leaves you behind. Everybody else gets a re-go at the race and you find yourself 10 or 15 seconds behind a queue that you have no hope in catching over the last 2 or 3 laps of the race. Skull in the comment section, not too impressed with the software at hand. Obviously the new game has already been announced. It'll be the earliest that an F1 game has ever been released. But I wouldn't commit to it just yet. I think it's a little insulting releasing a game poster pre-order at full price for a game that didn't even have a trailer. We didn't see gameplay footage, we didn't even see trailer footage. So let's see what happens come May 2024. Obviously, if you are one of those 4 drivers in the DNF column, let me know what happened in your race. Was it a driver issue? Was it an incident? Or was it a game or internet related issue? Let us know. Depending how we manage to do things next season, we may even get 1 or 2 of the DNF drivers to jump into the comms, at least for a short period of time, and give them a little mini interview on what exactly occurred. Some bad luck, Skull says. Something you've got to accept about the game, and something you've got to accept about real motorsport, is you can practice a track as much as you want. You can do 1,000 laps if you want to, but you can always arrive at a corner and just make the smallest mistake and find yourself in an Armco. We get confirmation early this time around. Safety car will be in. Bernard also having some complaints about the race. Sometimes things just not going according to plan. Like I say, you can practice the track, you can mastermind your strategy, but you really don't know what's going to happen until you're out there on the tarmac. Madwell, will he leave it as late as he did last time around? He does. He leaves it very, very late. Backs to the entire field up. He knows nobody can overtake till that start finish line, and just really make sure nobody's able to get momentum. Look at that. Have they? Yes, they have. They've worked that out perfectly. Madwell backs Pantry Star into Big T, and we have an Aston Martin 1-2 at the start of the race. Now remember, Madwell's going to have 12 lap old mediums. He chose not to pit. Big T's got 3 lap old softs. I'm almost certain we're going to see these two Aston Martins switch around. We've got Pantry Star in P3, but he is at risk. He is on aging hard tyres, 13 laps on those hards. And the two cars immediately behind him, Virus and Andre, they're on brand new softs. Harsh Cartoon as well. A lot of soft runners behind him, and as I say that, Harsh Cartoon loses a position to the Ferrari, down to P7 ever so briefly, then loses another position. This time to Top Gun, Harsh Cartoon down to P8. Back at the front, Madwell leads the way on those aging mediums, leads his teammate on a brand new set of softs. Virus still looking for that podium. Looked like at one stage we were going to get a 3 and 4 Alpine, but look how much has changed, and that's what a late safety car can do. It can really mess with your plans, and if your plans have already been messed up from an incident, it can really get you back into the race. That's going to be the two major feelings on the grid when it comes to safety cars. Either it's going to annoy you, or either you're going to be oh so grateful. Team it should have been annoying is the Aston Martins. Every time they've built up a comfortable gap, the safety cars come out to destroy it, but they're still P1 and P2. Those cars have switched positions, as we thought they would. Madwell is on the aging mediums, but I think he has a gap large enough to secure that second place. Andre up into P3, the AlphaTauri having a late surge. AlphaTauri RB, whatever it is, having a late surge at the end of the race, now on the podium. Remember, he lost his teammate earlier on in the race. Skull having a DNF, so just the one AlphaTauri remaining in this race. They're going to want to get this car as far up the field as possible. If things were to finish this way, it would be 44 points for the Aston Martin team, and that is for this race alone. Then a further 8 points from the sprint race. Be a very strong night for the Aston Martin team if things were to end this way. And with the amount of time left on that lap counter, something extremely dramatic would have to happen at the end for there to be a change on the first two steps of the podium. In light of the Aston Martin domination, Andre's done a fantastic job. Remember, he hasn't really been in that podium contention. We haven't spoken about him that much in the race. But he made it count when it counted most. And that is exactly where you need to be. It doesn't matter if you're in the lead of the race for the first couple of laps of the race. It matters if you're in front at the end of the race. And Andre may have timed this perfectly, but as I say that, he's coming under pressure. I thought they were going to go side-by-side contact for a moment, but they still side-by-side. And the one that is braver is Virus. Virus comes out on top. Fantastic driving between the two, side-by-side for multiple corners. No contact. No carbon fiber flying. That's what you want to see. And it's not over just yet. Andre coming back at that Ferrari. Battle for the lead up the road, not over yet. Madwell coming back at his teammate that has much fresher and better tyres. Madwell has not given up on this race. He's not worried about those aging mediums. He's not worried about the physics. He's here to break the physics. He wants to win this race. And his teammate's going to know all about it every time he looks in the mirror. He's not going to be questioning it. Is my teammate trying to pass him? He'll know. Really close at the front. We're trying to keep our eyes on this battle for third. Seems like Virus may have just fallen off from Andre at the wrong time. Now Madwell still doing everything he can to get past his teammates, staying on the gearbox of the Aston Martin ahead of him. Just a little bit of a lockup. Shows you how much they're pushing in these late stages. This is lap 29 of 29. and these cars are separated by 0.4 of a second. Some really close racing here in SKR on a Sunday night. But I think on this Sunday night, Aston Martin have got things spot on. Virus has been able to get back ahead of Andre, and now he's going to defend for all he's worth. We've got to keep an eye on that last corner because Madwell may try something. Thought about it, and then I think he may have had flashes of two Aston Martins flying into the wall and thought better of it. It's an Aston Martin 1-2. Virus has done enough to hold on to P3. No penalties there, so no surprises. Andre P4, Top Gun P5. And now the rest of the cars coming over the field. No one too far back because we had that late safety car. I want to thank you all for joining us here tonight, and what a race it was. We saw Aston Martin dominance in the sprint race, just the one driver, and then we saw both of them dominate in the feature race. Andre, great drive towards the end there, challenged for a podium, and he takes driver of the day. There are your official results. Winner of the race, Big T. Then Madwell in the second Aston Martin makes it a 1-2 for Aston Martin. Virus in P3 had to really fight for that podium. Then we have Andre P4, Top Gun P5. He's followed by Mr. M, Pantry Star, Dixie Killer and Damo. Smurf makes up the top 10. Not in the top 10 tonight, but finishing the race, Revolution P11, Harsh Cartoon P12, we've got Gotzi P13, Wasp 14, and Divan making up the field tonight in P15. Unlucky tonight. Disguise, Skull, Ulrich and Chums, they are the 4 DNFs for the night, but they'll have another opportunity to get on the tarmac next week, Sunday. I want to thank everybody who's joined us here tonight, everybody who's watched, obviously all the returning viewers that watch the live stream almost every second night, and to everybody who watches this later on in the week where most of our views come from. I want to thank you all. Like I mentioned earlier on in the stream, there may be a third league joining this channel for broadcast. So keep your eyes for more information on that. And like I said earlier, if you have any suggestions for the comments box, let me know and we'll see what we can do. That was a fantastic race. That was SKR Season 6 Round 8. I'll see you next week Sunday for SKR. And I'll see you tomorrow for SAFRL Tier 1. Cheers.